Well, the thing is, it's a continuum. I mean, there's a point where does computer nerd become Asperger become normal? There's no black and white dividing line. In fact, on the other end of the developmental spectrum, there's a syndrome called Williams syndrome, where they're hypersocial. And the thing is interesting, when you look at the pattern of the brain abnormality, both on autopsy and on a brain scan, it's exactly the opposite of autism. In autism and Asperger's, the brain's hard drive, the visual cortex in the back third of the brain, that's all normal. The emotion circuits are underdeveloped and immature. And then the white matter that from the frontal cortex that hooks up all the different compartments, sort of like in the office building of the brain, that's all abnormal, growing in snarls, and the severity of that's very variable. So basically, the hard drive in the autistic brain is normal. Now in the Williams syndrome, all the emotional stuff's all hooked up right, but the hard drive's all messed up. And so they're all social without very much information.
I think I know some people like that.
Well, you see, but that may be a continuum. Are we going to call some yak super social salesman a Williams syndrome variant? I have gone out to dinner with salesmen that could spend 4 hours talking about sports-themed nothing with absolutely no information. You know, they wouldn't talk about, well, the strategy of the game or why this coach was better than that coach or how they did a certain play. That contains information. Their conversation had absolutely no information. It was just sort of inane, silly jokes back and forth and chit-chat.
Wow. Yeah, those kind of conversations bore me to tears.
And it bored me to tears. And I was sitting there at that dinner, sort of like a sociologist, and I go, have we got some Williams syndrome variants here? Now, I'm just speculating on this. But you talk to these people, there's no information.
No substance.
There's no substance. And I can get interested in other subjects. Let's say somebody wants to talk about how to sail a sailboat. Okay, that's not my field, but I could get interested in listening to a conversation about how to sail a sailboat.
When it talks about the information.
Yeah, the information. If it's the information, then I'm interested. I get very interested talking to people what it's like living in foreign countries. I find that interesting. One of the problems I'm seeing now, you see the Asperger thing, you know, this is going on the internet, so I'm realizing this is going internationally. So the Asperger diagnosis was not used that much in America until, probably, you know, late 90s. It really got to be a big thing in America. And as soon as that started happening, I started seeing much more normal kinds of individuals coming up to the book table, talking to me at meetings. You know, I look, well, this looks like a normal, you know, science kind of nerd kind of kid that ought to be taking computer programming course. He shouldn't be in special ed. Now, prior to the Asperger diagnosis being used a lot in America, I didn't see that. You know, the individuals had a lot more problems. But I get very upset when I see somebody 16 years old, IQ of 150, that should be in a talented and gifted program, and they're talking about putting him on welfare because he's not socially related. It just makes me really angry, and this is why I keep talking about this, because the kids that are more like, kind of kids like me, I mean, they're the ones I want them to succeed. And the ones that are out there succeeding, I mean, how did those guys get into the meatpacking plants? Well, their dad was in it, pulled them into it. Some of them just start out working on the line, and then they work up to head of maintenance. Now, I'm talking about good jobs here, like plant engineer and head of maintenance. You know what? This brings up the whole thing of getting in the back door. How do you find mentors? You know how I found one of my important mentors in the meat industry? I met the wife of their insurance company, of all things. And she'd recognized that I did a good job of writing articles for our local farm magazine. So I had my articles in the farm magazine as one of my portfolios. And then she also liked a hand-embroidered shirt that I had made, which this is not it. I can't fit in it anymore. So I was wearing my portfolio. You see, talent attracts mentors too. You know, and they go, well, this kid's really, you know, talented. Yeah, I want to teach him programming, or I want to teach him graphic arts, or I want to teach him theater lighting, or some other, you know, thing they could get into. Well, the thing is, the skills are going to be uneven. The thing that I was not able to do was the real abstract math like algebra. I think I could do trigonometry or geometry if it was taught in a real concrete way, like build a model bridge, calculate the trig functions for different angles that you can put the cables on the bridge. Then you can do fun destructive testing, you know, of your model bridge with weights, and you can actually measure that. You see, that's making trigonometry real. But they're going to be uneven skills. They're going to be good at one thing, bad at something else. Another thing, there's a lot of mix-up with Asperger's and ADHD, and also with dyslexia, too. Because a lot of these sensory problems I talked about, hearing sensitive, visual problems, lots of different brain problems have these sensory sensitivities. Some dyslexics have visual problems, not all of them. Some people with ADHD have sensory problems. And again, good at one thing, and then you get these verbal logic kind of people. They'd be very good at journalism. They'd be very good as a language translator. And you know, Middle Eastern languages, boy, you can get a job as a language translator. But we got to take the thing they're good at and build on that thing they're good at. And then think about, what could this person do when they grow up that's a skill that other people want?
Now, so teachers should be looking at all different ways to teach the exact same topic to hit every kid in that class, give every kid an chance to understand.
That's right. I mean, it's just like the old debate about reading, whether it's phonics or a whole word. You know what? You need to teach both because you have different kinds of kids. Another thing is, you've got to expose kids to interesting things, to get them interested in things. I think it'd be a really good idea to get parents to bring in all their old trade journals. Every field has its trade journals. I mean, bring in chemistry journals, construction magazines, bakery magazines, no matter, you know, plant maintenance management, language journals, and bring those in to the library. Because how can a kid get interested in something if he's never exposed to it? I also think every library should have the Wall Street Journal, because in the center section of the Wall Street Journal, there's usually an interesting article about some niche business that somebody started. And a lot of them sound really Asperger to me. And then another thing I really despise is video games, especially the rapid motion video games. And the reason why I don't like them is that I was the kind of kid that would have been hypnotized by this. And all I would have done is played shoot-'em-up video games rather than building things, rather than getting interested in career-related things. Now, there's a few kids that'll be smart enough to program the games, but those are few and far between. There's no way I could program those games. I don't have the math skills. I could get addicted to them, but there's no way I could program them. You know, cattle handling design, that's something I could do. Animal behavior, that's something I could do. And the things that are the most hypnotic and the most addicting are the rapid motion things, the things that move rapidly. Because my favorite things as a child were model rockets that you pumped up with water, and then later on I got the kind that you actually, you know, light the fuse to make them go up. I liked model airplanes that flew, kites. I liked visually stimulating things. Well, out there, like, I mean, I figured out how to make a helicopter out of a broken glider. I think that's a little more career relevant than just getting addicted to video games. Now, I'm not anti-computer. I'll make it very clear. I'm not anti-computer. What I'm anti is getting zoned on the rapid motion. Now you take games like SimCity or this new game Spore, where you can like invent worlds on other planets and then they gradually grow. I think that's really cool. I mean, there's all kinds of cool things. I mean, the NASA website and watch the Mars rover go on the moon as it's actually doing it. That's the kind of thing with computers I want to encourage. But the problem is that for certain kids, these games are these fast motion games are so addictive. And I've had parent after parent say, I can't get them interested in anything else. And I think that needs to be, video game playing needs to be limited to an hour a day. Because I think we have to start thinking at a really young age, what can they do when they grow up? Video game programmer is not an option for me. And if I had become an addict to video games, I don't think I would have gotten my degree. I don't think I would have gotten, developed my talents into a field that I could do, which uses my very visual kind of thinking.